Welcome back to the show. Today is Friday, December the 4th, and we are about 20, 6 days, 27 days away from the end of the year. The crazy year that has been. Uh, got a lot that has been happening around the world, and people are starting to get a little unsettled because even though we've got our president, that everyone wants, things have not seemed to get any better. Of course, things are not going to happen overnight, but you know, I don't see things happening, as quick as people all want them to. I have someone that I have an unfinished conversation I need to have with. Let me see if I can get Mr. Linwood Mosley on the line. Give me one. Mr. Linwood Mosley is a very interesting man, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello?
Get on the line. Yes, Mr. Mosley, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Mr. Burn One, Word on the Street TV. We were speaking earlier about first of all, introduce yourself to the viewing audience. Let them know who you are.
Yes, sir. My name is Dr. Linwood Mosley. I have a PhD in religion, a PhD in business management, and I've been Illuminati for 33 years, coming in as 21 years old as a Mason, then switched to Shriners at the age of 32 and carried out from there.
Okay, now you may scare some people when you say the Illuminati. Now, give people a little bit of insight when you mention that term because that term scares people.
Okay, well, basically, Illuminati means enlightened ones who knows the truth. And if you go back from another aspect of it, it starts when the Anunnaki came here 4,500 years ago, and they actually was a Garden of Eden, and they created man into their situations to become not only slaves but produced for the world to where we're at now. So Illuminati shouldn't be ashamed or anything at all. It's just people who know the truth of how the world really works.
Okay, so are you saying that basically like the world is ran by by the Illuminati?
Yes, you have. Yeah, it's actually they're run by the Anunnaki. We have our father was called a Nu, which is a universal God that he doesn't know who you are, or in that aspect, or anyone else. Now you have his children, which is Enki, Anil, which is God in the term. And when you go to the Bible, you see Lord, which equates to Baal, which if you go to Baal worship or you go to the Goetia, that's what we're talking about. So basically, you're looking at these situations are created to produce. They got stuck here because of a situation that came with gold, and they was trying to get gold to actually go back to fix their atmosphere, and it didn't work out, and they got stuck here. And so that's where you see the Bible comes in at, which Bible is mentioned the Nephilim, or you call it fallen angels, or whichever one. And then you look at the Bible. If you go look at Ann River, the Book of Psalms, or anything else, these are the Bible is a spell book. It's a grimoire, which you can use to call the angels and etc. to come in and help you out with your time of need.
Okay, so let me ask you because I was speaking with someone earlier, and we were talking about the power of words and how words are used as tools. When you mention the Bible is the ultimate form of using words as tools. Give us a little bit of how the Bible and the Illuminati relates to the to the upcoming digital age?
Okay, well, first you have to go from the beginning. If you look at the Flavians, which hired Josephus, and he was all those were nations. So when it got started, it actually was started, and even you could go look at this as a history channel and follow anything in depth. It's like who invented Christianity. Actually, when they wrote the Bible, and Josephus was a guy was from the Middle East. So if you look at their interpretation of what we read now, was not like that back then because they did not have the education or other things at hand to produce. So Josephus got with the Flavians, and the Flavians, which thought it was a joke. The Flavians include Caesar as well, and so that's why you see in the Bible, render unto God is God, and render unto Caesar is Caesar, as money and tithe and gold. But as it explains it to it, it shows that they created a system and they thought it was a joke and played with people's intelligence because they thought no one would believe that that story of Jesus Christ and the way it was done and everything that was done in that aspect was true. And so what they done was they created the Bible, which if you took the words from the Anunnaki, which when they landed, Iki, which is Lucifer in the Bible, which is not basically a person with horns and ears and all the other stuff. He was actually God's first son of the universe. And so when they got stuck here, he created that with the Muslims, and then it went to the Egyptian project and Osiris, Isis, and that came into Masonism. And as it formed all the way down, these people came into a test of, taking occult knowledge to whichever one was turned. So by the time we got to the Flavians, which came from the Moors, they put this out and they thought nobody would never actually believe it. But these people caught on and it became Christianity versus non Christianity, and people took up different causes.
And you said Slavians.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now where does that term originate from?
Well, the Flavians are actually a group of people or family that ruled at the time of Josephus, and they had money and power. So if you go back and do your research 4,500 years ago, anybody who had, power or wealth could change the laws and basically history at their own will. And that's what they done. So at one time, we had black people which ruled the world from the beginning, from the Egyptians, and then basically things got switched up because everybody, white, black, Jewish, or whichever one, has a chance to rule a situation. Then basically, when the Flavians came in, that was basically part of Caesar and Rome, and during that time frame, the reason why they got Josephus because he came from that platform, which these people was black, but you also got to remember it was black and white mixed at that time because when you create the Garden of Eden, they made people of different colors and stuck them in all aspects of the world.
Mr.
But in the
Mosley.
United States,
Mr. Mosley,
yes, sir.
hold on 1 second. 1 second. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, you cool, you cool, you
I
cool.
need
You
to
go ahead.
I need to take my headset off because I have a
No,
hat
go
on.
ahead, go ahead,
And I had a
go ahead.
hat on. Hold on 1 second.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I wore this hat tonight because it's got a brim on it that's 360 degrees. So I knew I was gonna be getting a lot of knowledge. So I wore this hat to absorb a lot of knowledge, but it's a little uncomfortable. So we're gonna retire the hat for the night. But
Oh, yes, sir.
please continue.
No, sir, at all. So when you go to that part of it, it was just introducing the history of the way the world was because you have to remember for the Anunnaki came here, there was other people that came here from different spheres of planets, and they said it and tried to make it work, but it just didn't work. So when the Anunnaki got here, when they, that shows up, which is 650 members, 50 members died due to the fact of other situations. And when it boils all the way down to setting up even Caesar, you have to look at the Bible as King James. King James was a black man, which was homosexual, which got caught up in the mix. So when they wrote the Bible was a spell book and a grimoire to make sure that if anybody prayed or wanted to work with them, they would show up.
So let me
And
ask you,
that's what it is. Yes,
why,
sir.
if the Bible is something that, like you say, if King James was a homosexual,
And he was a
if,
Mason too.
if
He
it
was a
had
Mason.
all these, why is the Bible so much of a stronghold on people? Or
Well, the Bible is a stronghold because if you brainwash people in a certain aspect, if you bring, we'll say, for instance, back in my day when I was growing up, you had the pimps, prostitutes, and the religious part of the preacher was the most evil people that was because everyone knows that other than that, the Bible was created to put people in control, but it was also to give people a story. They took things out the Bible to make sure that certain black people would be submissive, and that's where you got when you get into that line of aspect, you dealing with Martin Luther King, which is his name was Michael King and others. But when we deal with just strictly the Bible
wait a minute,
from the
Martin Luther King.
beginning,
I thought the Martin Luther King in Alabama marching across the bridge, and I thought that was the Martin Luther King. What Martin Luther King are you?
you know, with Martin Luther King, his real name was Michael King. It's in Atlanta Records, and his daddy was named that he was Daddy King. But Martin Luther King, if you go do the research, was a Mason just like me. So when you ask that part of the aspect, you say, well, how can a man preach and be in religion in a satanic occult,
You said he
a
was a Mason
Luciferian
just
occult?
like you.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm 32nd degree Mason and Illuminati, and when you get into the aspects, Shriner and all of that, he was a Mason. So the arguments in the Masonic world was how can you actually be, a Mason and preaching in the pulpit, which is a Luciferian situation. So each church that accepted that, or even any church that you see with a Masonic preacher, most of them don't know, but it's a Luciferian occult
Okay.
because anybody that deals with Masonic is in a satanic and a Luciferian occult, even Eastern Star.
All right. So,
So,
is there a difference between Masonry and Freemasonry?
Freemasonry is just saying you're allowed to be free to go through different channels and stuff. There's no difference. When you come, and the sad thing about it is, we have brothers and sisters that have joined Masonry and don't even know what they joined. For example, if you look at the Eastern Star basically handbook, and if you look at the way it's positioned, and you take the Baphomet situ, his picture, and if you place it on top of it, it's the exact same picture
Well,
of
let's
the
assume
Eastern Star.
let's assume we're dumb, because
Right?
there may be somebody listening that has no clue as to what Eastern Star is. So give them a little bit of a insight on what exactly is an Eastern Star.
But Eastern Star is basically subject to Masonry, meaning that these women are submissive to the Masons. So it's just like alphas, you know, you know, big deltas, all of them get down in certain ways, which are junior masons of Eastern Star, but most of them don't know. But Eastern Star is basically pointing to the east, which is basically you dealing with Isis and the Egyptian part. But if you look at the Eastern Star emblem and you count it 5 times around and you look at each individual pyramid and square, it's so 5 times 3 because you got one pyramid and the slice, which makes 1, 2, 3. If you do 5 times 3, that's 15. If you go into your tarot cards, that's the devil or Lucifer.
And
So
hold on,
it's
hold on, hold on,
all
hold
of
on, because
them.
you may have lost some people there. So you're what you're doing is you're breaking down the pyramid into three different.
I'm breaking Well, I'm breaking down a pyramid, which is when you get into Eastern Star. If you look at the Eastern Star, it is five, basically pyramids in a circle. It's five. Look at it. It's 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So you have the pyramid in each one, and then you have five of them. If you count 5 times 3, and that's the breaking down of the pyramid, is 15. If you go pull up the devil's card and the tarot card, that lets you know who you're dealing with. Iki, which is Lucifer.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. See, you have to remember when you get into Masonry, Eastern Star, and what people believe, they believe for what the white man has told them that this is evil and all of this and that. But if you go through the research of the Anunnaki, Enki was a scientist. And with him being a scientist and three more sisters that was with him, they knew how to do cloning. So when they got to the Garden of Eden, they tried for 7 days to perfect man in the image that would be creative. That's why when you go to the Bible and you look at the Bible, say man was created in the image of us. And that's why when you have a baby, if you look at, I forgot what trimester it is, your baby looks like a lizard. These are basically the Anunnaki and that form of connection. And when you get into that, they took and done weaving their DNA into all of our DNA and made man out of clay. That's why when you die, you return to dust and everything from that aspect. So he took from that part and the three sisters that was with him, they cloned. So we are clones of the gods, whether people look at it that way or not. But they look at other people are clones, but we're clones. Because even if you look in the Bible, it says man was created for the image of us.
Okay, now we can digest all of that, right? So
I'm sorry, did I go too far in that part or anything?
no, no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no, because
Okay.
I digested all of that. But the question that it leaves me with, if we are clones of the gods, right? And now
Hmm.
it's pretty much everything is on autopilot. Uh we are
Right.
duplicating ourselves. So the gods, if this um thing that you explaining, if this is the way history holds, right now we're duplicating ourselves. But as being clones of the gods, the behavior that we have now, that is reach, in my opinion, in a all-time level of savagery. um how do you attribute to that to the gods?
Well, you look at from the aspect when we were created, if you go back and study the Sumerians, the Sumerians is the first of the people along with the Anunnaki that came here. So basically, to answer your question, when each one was put in different parts of each part, the United States and, different people, they made those clones. And as you people produce, the governments, as you asked me before, to make sure I stay on content to basically Illuminati even nowadays. What happened was when you put these people in these different parts of the region and you teach them different things, everybody's dependent on everybody for something. That goes from China to the United States and all. So even when you break everything down, we're all receptors of slavery to produce a race that actually would be like Star Trek, and then in the end, we will be in outer space. You might not see it, or we might not see. We might be in the predatory world, but it's all building a situation so that way the Anunnaki, you call witches, lizard people, and all those other things, we will actually produce and producing things now to actually get us to one day we will be a Star Trek in outer space. If you look at movies and all things, etc., you see Star Trek with the flip phones. We have the flip phones now. So if you look at everything in movies, the Anunnaki just shows you that they're here
So
and
you
they're
saying this
actually
technology
producing.
that we're because that there is been a mile marker that has been pointed out by a lot of people that technology has sped up in the last 40 to 50 years in a very very rapid rate, a lot more rapid than it has sped up in probably the last 5 or 600 probably years, probably the last 2 or 3 thousand years. Within the last 40 to 50 years, technology has taken off. Um, so, are you saying that technology is basically being attributed to the Anunnaki? Is that your claim?
Yes, because you have to look at yes, and the reason why I say that, if you even look at the the things that we have, what's above is below. So if you look at everything now, I'm 53. So if you even go back and look at in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, who would ever thought that you have 75-inch screen televisions, phones, and all this stuff in this nature, and the way the world is taking off, the way it is, if you look at cars can drive itself, look at the Jetsons. These are cartoons where you have basically somebody riding in the space saucer or doing these things. If you look at all the movies on television, these things that was produced in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are actually happening now.
Hmm.
So if you take that and you look at Star Trek, Stargate, even if you go to the movie Stargate, he lets you know that they actually saying they're going back to the Orion Belt. You even look at Sirius Radio, the Dog Star Sirius.
Right.
That's where they came from. So you even have networks and everything named after these people, so you don't have to take my word for anything. You can look and say, how somebody know what the Sirius Dog Star is? How does Sirius come into this? Where you get Sirius radio on your cars? Where did that name come from? That's where the galaxy, everything happened. So when you take these things that are out here, the clues are here and everything is here. They left the clues. They just want you to find them.
So you actually believe that some of the things like traveling through space and entering in different realms of reality. Do you think those things are actually possible as played out on movies and shows like a Star Trek and you know some of the the other sci-fi shows that come on?
Yes, if you think about it, it's here now when you open up, even when you do magic, whether it's voodoo, black magic, or whichever one, you're calling on a deity to come in so that dimension that you can't see, and there are dimensions around you that you can't see because even in the Bible, if you have angels, whether it's Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, or any other angel, if you contact them, you open up another dimension, and a port. Even if you do black magic or white magic or voodoo, you're calling on these gods, which are the same gods. But when you open it, you just open up a door to a portal that's actually here with you
Right.
all the time that you never seen. So the mathematics and physics and science is great because if you have a dimension that's right here and they can enter your dimension, whether it's angels or demons or devils or whatever you appear, then that's letting you know there are different dimensions around you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to open up the doors.
Okay. So it's not so much that you're going to travel physically to some foreign place, but the place that you have to travel is within, inside the mind, because the places that you're traveling to is right around you.
Right, because when you open up the mind, which you're correct, sir, your mind, and once you open up your third eye, you're available and you open up these dimensions around you. And the further you explore, you understand the action and consequence. When you get there are portals and doors open, but it comes a consequence where the more you open up the doors and the more you learn, is you give up certain type of freedom because as they come in and once one come they all come, then you understand that once you open up those doors, you then open up doors to different dimensions and situations, whether it's jinn, demons, or whichever one. And when they show up, then that's where you have locked yourself into a different dimension by opening up your third eye and everything from that aspect to seeing reality. The third eye just came from the Garden of Eden. It was just you had the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Once you open up that door, then you are able to see the real truth. That's all what it is.
Are you familiar with the Ouija board?
Yes, sir, I am. I had plenty of them, then played with them plenty of years. Yes, sir.
What are your feelings about the Ouija board?
Well, the Ouija board, it does open up different dimensions and portals. The thing about the Ouija board, there's actually, which I could give a term of, we was playing with a Ouija board at 16, and basically, in my partner's house, and every other power, the electricity went out in every other room in the house, which we had to call the a person that basically fix appliances and fix it because the family was coming home on Sunday. But what we learned was when you open up that, it shut off every room in different. But you open up these different portals and dimensions to these beings, and sometimes you might not know what you're getting, but they will show you that they're present.
So you may not know what you're getting. So that,
Yeah,
that
no, reason why I say that is because when you open up that portal and that Ouija board and you summon and you plan, and you can even buy it at the local, you know, toy store. But when you open it up, you don't know who you're dealing with or what you're dealing with,
what type of energy
and
you
you
bringing up?
right, you don't know. Until it gets there, and once it opens up, it can pretend to be God, it can pretend to be the devil, it can be ghosts that don't live in your house. If you're attracted to the cult, you don't know what you're getting. And once you done open up the door, just like if you watch Hellraiser, Pinhead, it's the same aspect of a Ouija board or a cube. It's the same thing.
How does
You
that
open it.
relate to people? So when it comes to the transference of good and bad energy when it comes to people, the coronavirus thing right now is having everyone with the social distance. Stay 6 feet away from me. Don't get around me. before we were you more of a loving people. Hey, what's up, man? We giving dap and hugs and all that stuff like that. Um, the transference of good energy. Now that we're distant ourselves from each other, how is that energy going to, uh, you know, how is that energy gonna transform itself to still be transferred amongst people, or is that energy not gonna be transferred?
Well, you have to remember all virus. If you go look at even studies from the CIA, all the way to MK Ultra, you look at the government brings in different things to test on different people for experiments. It's just a test. For example, if you look at basically all the people that died from the coronavirus, if you even go look up in your internet or anywhere you search, how many people die of natural deaths every day? Every day it's 150,000 people. So if you take that with the coronavirus, just dying an instant death, it's no different than the common cold. What the Illuminati does is create a problem and even put certain things, even coronavirus is nothing but a respiratory infection that comes from a cold.
But
That's all.
is that the same Wait a minute, because I don't want to get confused. Is that the same Illuminati that you're saying that you're a part of?
Yes. No, you're not confused. Illuminati use things just for example, for America to have, we'll say, this coronavirus here and certain things that happen to different people, it has to happen that way because America does not have war on their soil. If you notice, anytime America goes into battle, they always fight overseas somewhere
Mhm.
because if you came to the United States and had a battle, it would be very destructive. So yes, the Illuminati that I'm a part of is sacrifice people. The game of it is where I play at my level. You sacrifice people to get what you want. But back to the situation that you're talking
That
about.
was that was that was very heavy for you to skip over it lightly. But go ahead, continue.
No, I mean, what I was just saying is when you play the game at the highest stakes, life is a game like Barnum Bailey Circle. It's a game. It's a game.
Okay.
One's like Tupac told everybody standing in the rearview mirror. Once you learn that life is not a trick, it's a game. And once you understand the rules of the game, then you can play. When you
Mm-mm.
play at the stakes, like
Mm-mm.
Tupac and everyone else, you're playing with people. You're sacrificing people and even yourself for the ultimate cause,
What is that ultimate cause?
whatever you're trying to achieve. The ultimate cause could be success, it could be money, it could be fame for whatever your life in that part that you, if you get a chance to be able to play the game. Like rap music, you know, you'd have any type of music. All it does is set up with the negative energy to get you to kill people and their souls are being sold off because there is no Jesus Christ and the guy that you think is not X. So you're playing the game and when you sacrifice these people because of the stuff that they're done, whether it's good, bad, game thing or not, you're sacrificing them for money, fame, or whatever you're trying to achieve. And the gods just willing to look at the highest thing that you're willing to give up for what you want is to take another individual for that. America does it all the time, whether you have black on black crime, whether you have white people doing, it's all about the sacrifice. It's even in the Bible. It tells you as Jacob was about to sacrifice his son until he stopped and God said, don't do it. So even in life, Everything is about sacrifice. What are you willing to give up, and what are you willing to do to get paid?
Mm.
And when you play it at that state, you playing at the highest state possible. You dealing with humans,
So
not a checkerboard.
basically, we're basically entering the realm of saying that they're looking at humans as basically, like a livestock of cattle.
Well, you have to remember when the Anunnaki came here, they had the Sumerians and the Gigi people. The Gigi people. Reason why I go back to that is giving you history how long all of this has been started. So when the Gigi people got mad because the Anunnaki was working a little too hard and they complained to Anu, which is God of the universe, if you read it there, so they created a race, which is us, to do the work for them. The niggas became demigods and other gods that you see, but we became a race to turn around and produce from 4,500 years because the earth was here before they got here. So in this realm, you starting up. So you're taking these people, look at everything that you see on TV. I mean, even if you look at any commercials or anything, you looking at all this stuff is entertainment, it's world, but if you're not really paying attention to it, look at the scientists as and things are being created. Everything is created for a purpose. And everybody, whether it's home being built or regenerification, or people don't know. Even if you go look on NASA's website, they even show you that they got things like the Jetsons, where they took in a little capsule and you could put it in the microwave and create a meal out of it. So these things are here. It's just waiting to introduce to the people to turn around so the people can look at 20 years ago versus now. Look how much change and evolution. So
Where
we
are
go
these
to the
things
data.
coming from? That's the thing. Where are these have ideas to say, hey, I want to be able to, whatever your wish and your dream may be, because how can uh, material and create, uh, steel. You know what I mean?
Okay, so if you look for one in the is basically, if you look at things, these things are plans. And so even if you look at third, the fifth kind, or anything, you can go look up Anunnaki. The whole thing is each an individual after a decade or a certain time, they come in inky, which Anil is the god that everybody looks at in the Bible. They sit down and look at their plan over decades or even centuries. And once they set things into effect, they come and even check and say, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And they always coming up with a plan for the next situation at hand to make sure that they don't make the same mistake. They are very intelligent beings. They're very good beings, but you have to look at the people involved that they're dealing with. For example, if you don't have a connection or you praying or worshiping the God or the Bible, until that angel or being looks at you and goes back and gives the information, they don't know who you are. They don't. You know, they only know when you're trying to contact them through prayer and other things. So, as your question elevates to where, these the certain situations, they actually come in and, everything has a goal to it and a purpose. And they sit down and what they do is They make plans for each section or generation to turn around to produce the results that they're producing. Sometimes they even teach us lessons. You can look at, right, Trayvon Martin. If you really go look at Trayvon Martin, it was a setup because basically his dad was a Mason and that was a sacrifice.
So you
And you
feel that
have
was something that was orchestrated by uh
Illuminati. If you go look at even with Floyd that died, you have to think about certain things. See, Illuminati produces situations to start a conflict. If you look in the world, all the time it's all about a black person getting killed by a white cop or a certain area. You don't ever see others, and this always sparks situations. 30-30 degree masonry, chaos produces order. Long as
so
you
let
can
let me
reduce.
hear let me hear your, because I'm very good on, and I'm not going to say I'm the best, but I'm
No,
very
you
good
cool.
on detecting uh you know, if someone is fabricating something to lead into what they want the people to believe. So let me hear your reasoning for feeling that George Floyd was basically like some type of conspiracy type thing,
Well,
not
if you look,
necessarily the after, but the actual killing itself.
okay, if you look at, for example, Aiden actual killing, George Floyd went into a store, and from what the news told, with a fake $20 bill or whatever he done, if he wouldn't have produced that $20 bill, and if it wouldn't have been fake, then none of those scenarios would have never happened. Now, do we know that the bill was fake? No, we don't. Do we know that scenario was real and what is done? You can go look at Sandy Hook and you can go look up crisis actors, crisis. And if you look up crisis actors, it shows that these people are brought in through the Illuminati to play certain roles in certain tragic events to make people think things. So you have to understand what is real and what is not real.
So
So
how
you
do
have
we
to
decipher
remember
that? How do you
well,
how do you
well, what you
decipher
can,
on which one, which one of the stories
well,
you're gonna take as being,
well, what,
which ones, uh,
what's real and what's not real? What
yeah.
you have to look at there. For example, if you took, George Floyd and you're doing all of this, okay, when you look at the things that come in every year or every 6 months when things cool down, this is the way Illuminati works. And I'm gonna give you out the game the way it works. All the time when you look at it, it's always a white cop and a black person supposed to be submissive to the situation, but it takes off running or whichever one, and this starts, and then you have in the end riots or injustice on TV. Think about it from another point. If you don't have a gun, if you don't turn around and run, what would you run for and run to a car that you know you're going to jump into? The scenario in the story doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, it ain't true. Why would George Floyd go do that and then turn around and run and then just go right around the corner to somewhere and be sitting in his truck or vehicle or whatever he was in with somebody at a Chinese place, knowing that the police gonna look for him? What would you do that for if you had money? If you had Stephen A. Jackson that's your friend to play NBA basketball and he back you up, what would you do something that stupid for? Knowing that if they called the police on you and you ran, you're going to get hurt. It doesn't make sense.
So
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 you
so
go ahead.
are you saying, so is that like a staged event? Like what talk to me. Tell.
Look at I'm talking to you. I'm telling you. Look up crisis. Tell your people look up crisis actors. You'll see them in Sandy Hook. with white people. You'll see them even with black people. Certain things are things like I got a cousin that's with NGA, which is the National Police for the whole world. They set up things and events when Saddam Hussein got killed. You fly in the information, you tell Saddam Hussein, hey, look, we appreciate what you done. We love you. Here's your passport. This is where you need to go. Whether it's underground, which there are cities underground, just like we have malls and everything here, there are cities up underground that complete just like up here. They give them information, they'll play it out in the scenario on TV, and you would think these people they got killed or died, these people that went somewhere and retired. They played their role.
All
And
right,
once the role
hold on
being
one second. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get this up here real quick. All right, so this says if I can get it all the way in, give me 1 second. All right, this says a crisis actor is a trained actor, role player, volunteer, or other person engaged to portray a disaster victim during emergency drills. To train first responders such as police, firefighters, or EMS personnel.
right,
Crisis actors are used to create high fidelity situations of disaster in order to allow first responders to participate uh, or to practice their skills and help emergency service organizations to prepare and train in realistic scenarios as part of full scale disaster exercises.
right.
So, yeah.
And if you look at even with those people from Sandy Hook, you will see the same people in the same scenario sometimes in different events on TV. So you got to remember, Illuminati. Put it this way: Illuminati comes in, they'll create the problem, which is black on black, or whether it's white or crisis acting. Then you turn around and get people agitated and they are tired of it and they're doing destruction. And then their Illuminati comes back in and say, okay, we're the insurance company too, and we're going to clean this mess up, but your rent's going to go up. So Illuminati creates the problem, give you a solution to the problem, and everything in solution is you got to depend on them for the solution because they created the problem and everybody makes money.
Okay. Do you
So when you
think that
make that,
the coronavirus is a way of ushering in a new a new age?
you have to look at it like this. Coronavirus is nothing but a respiratory infection, which is nothing but a cold. If you go look up certain situations study coronavirus, they'll tell you that, and like I was explaining to you and the people that listen, that 150,000 people die every day just from natural death. That's not gunshots. That's not robbery or police brutality of natural deaths. If you go take that 150,000 a day, and if you look at CNN and look at the part that they have posted on how many people done died in the USA, 230 something thousand, that's nothing but an average person, average day of people being died. If you don't go do your research and if you don't go study what's going on, you will be misled and you thinking this virus is all of that. Even look at doctors that's came out and admitted that basically the coronavirus was not only, extra put out there like that. But basically, what happened with the government is to give you the key to the whole thing. The government stayed in the situation too long, meaning that when they started out, they used George Floyd. if you look at every year or every 6 months to induct a ride, they make a black person supposed to get killed by a white person, and these things start as a catalyst. Chaos to order, which colludes evolution. When you get to the coronavirus part, you looking as always supposed to start it from somewhere overseas, but if you go to MK Ultra and you go back looking at the experiment with LSD and all these other things that happened over the years, you will see that the government used biological warfare on their own people and test it. That's all it's about. Is to put it on people and test your own people, and so many people will die from it to turn around from the end just to check out the product to see if it works.
So was George Floyd? Was he a part of a crisis acting scene?
Well, we don't know with Steven Jackson. Sometimes people just get killed because they done, and you can spot an incident and say, "Hey, okay, he done that and use it." But you kind of know that to look at the way things develop. How is it just a person as George Floyd and the rest of the people just die? All, and that just happened. And even if it was George Floyd and the person was supposed to work with him, the cop that strangled him knew who he was in that part, why would George Floyd go into a situation, which many people do with a fake $20 bill and pay? But if he being pulled over, what you gonna resist for? What you gonna do all that for to turn around when you know you're in the wrong? Most people don't do that. So see, sometimes people can be used as patsies, like, when you go back and look at John F. Kennedy and, got
That was the
killed
next
and
thing I
they
was gonna
used
go to, but go ahead.
John F. Kennedy, which I'm a Knight of Columbus, because when you're a Mason, you go through that, the Knight of Columbus killed his dad paid the price. If you will go do your research, you will see that John F. Kennedy, daddy, Bush's, that's George W. Bush, their daddy, all of them was Nazis and they came from overseas and they made Hitler a patsy and used him as the forefront to create these things. So the price that Kennedy had to pay was his son wouldn't reach these pinnacles, but they're going to die. Because when you make deals on the other side, the spirits come to collect. Sacrifice. What are you willing to do to get what you want or whatever it needs?
Mm. So the world has been basically taken over by, they say, a powerful group of families, the group of about 13 families to be exact. And
Actually, no, go ahead. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry, I
well,
didn't mean to
well,
interrupt
this
you. Go
is
ahead and
this.
finish.
I'm not saying exactly what is fact. I'm just saying what is popular knowledge,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
not
I was saying,
necessarily
go ahead and
popular
finish.
knowledge, but something that is passed around commonly amongst inquiring minds that want to know. Basically,
Right.
that there is 13 families that rule the world that make up the term or the powerhouse known as the Illuminati. Um, would you second that emotion? If so, then that mean that you would fall under that tree.
Well, yes, I fall under the tree, but you have to remember these 13 families and people make all these decisions. None of them can work without the gods. You have the gods, which are the nine councils that sit at a table, but you have God, you have to, if you want to believe in the devil, certain archangels, and other Anunnaki members that make the decisions what is going to pass or not. So no human can turn around and make a decision and decide it's going to work and they go from there. Even with me being Illuminati, I deal with all beings, but it still has to be passed through the non-council. And the reason why they done that, so that way they all would agree on which way everything goes. So there's no white man that runs the world. There's no Jewish that run the world. The white man is nothing but a replacement for the Jews because the Jews run everything in that part, and they made deals with different deities to do certain things. But if you go back and look at history, from Egypt on. For even for my black friends and my family members, one thing I wanted everybody black, and I'm glad you called me to understand, is that when you think of the white man doing you wrong, go look at basically the Irish. The Irish is a book. The Irish was the first slaves. And if it wasn't for black men from kings and that aspect of it, immigrating and keeping white people in slavery and getting them pregnant, that's how we came with interracial babies, even from the Caribbean. So what happened is we get over here and they promote this thing as black, white, and the white man did some roots. Even if you go look at Alex Haley, he'll tell you roots never existed. It was all made up. All this is propaganda to keep black people in the mind of being submissive and bound down to a system that they don't have to. They are not Afro Americans, they are Americans. And that's it. And it's sad to see that black people walk around here trying to search for their identity. And if you just look at where you was born at, that's who you are in this part.
Okay. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of information for you to digest. To the to the people out there watching, uh, Mr. Mosley, I'm definitely gonna have to get you back on, and so we can build on a few more topics. We coming up on an hour now of just just basically skimming the surface of some good information.
Networking, yeah. And then if your people that's listening, if they got questions, if you want to write down a list of questions and call me back, we'll do another show and we'll answer all of their questions. It's sad because, I'm part black. I'm in Cherokee Indian, white and black. But the thing of it is, you see a race of people trying to find out who they are and they're fighting
Hmm.
for this right in America and they don't understand and they're hurting because they don't know supposed to be Afro American, where you come from. If you ask any person from Africa, Afro American, well, what part of Africa are you from if you're Afro American? They can't tell you
Hmm.
because they was born in the United States. You're fighting a situation. You was just born here, and this is your home, and they use that trick to produce to make you think things, and then white black people try to say kings and all these other things. I'm a god. Only thing a god is basically look it up. Is someone who handles their own responsibility.
Might want to say that again. Say that again for him.
A god is nothing but a person who handles their own responsibility.
That's what
So
you
when
got.
you talk about right, and so if you handle yourself, there's no universal God other than the new, which He doesn't know you. You have these people here, and you're here to produce, keep the situation going. But can I say one thing in the end of all of this, though?
Yes, sir.
And this is something that I want to say to my black sisters and my black brothers.
Hmm.
Stop having kids if you can't afford them. Because what happens is when you're having these kids and you and the mother don't get along, you create the projects like Chicago, Charlotte, and anyone else.
Hmm.
And if you don't turn around and look at your welfare, then you're setting your kids up to die and leaving them on welfare and food stamps and keep the system pumping. Women need to turn around and look at who they're sleeping with, and if you're having a kid with that person, is that man responsible? And can he afford that kid? And you as well. Don't get mad at the man when it doesn't go right and take him downtown for child support and ruin him because you made the choice. Both of you did. And men, stop running out the woman. If you're dropping fries at McDonald's, there's nothing wrong with that. But stay in your lane. And you understand from that point, you don't need to produce any kids until you have a better education or things that tell you. Because when you do those things, you open up yourself to have a child if that person doesn't work out. You go for child support. The woman's on welfare and food stamps. They own poverty, and then they become a part of the system, and then they become gangbangers or drug dealers or whichever one. Stop living unrealistic. And any black person that's out there, God kind of told you this, and I'm telling you that too. If you want to make the system better in your favor, you got to start spending money in the white man's market that's turning around and rejecting hate you. They don't hate you. They like you because they like you spending money, but you produce $1 trillion a year in revenue. Why are you bowing down to a system that's hating you and destroying you and even killing you, and you're participating in it just to be somebody? If you would cut your network and just stop it, the white man got to come to you and try to work out something because without you, the economy don't exist.
That's heavy right there. That's heavy right there. Uh,
And I just don't want to see no more kids die for no reason. And I just don't want to see no more people being kept in bondage and slavery for no reason. But if you're doing this and you can't put and you having kids and you can't really afford them, whether it's on welfare or McDonald's or whichever one, you selling your kids out to become a slave for the system, and you setting them up for failure because you can't afford it. And that's child abuse,
yeah, yeah,
and
it
it
is.
hurts.
Yeah, it most definitely is. When you
And
really
so,
break it down, it most definitely is child abuse because you're setting them
right,
up for
and
them to be
right,
abused, by the world, basically, in so many
right,
words. Mr. Moses,
right,
you
and
got anything that
and
you're
I,
working on as far as like books or anything like that?
well, any books you want to read, if you want to understand how the economy and the system runs, the economic part, you can read Wealth of Nations by John Adams. That's the economic system that was built. When it was built, it showed that he had broken down the slavery and said, hey, look, you can't keep beating these people and the slaves that you got because you're hurting. Because if you do that, you break down your workers and you do everything. If you look at The Wealth of Nations by John Adams, that's the economic system that's taught in Harvard. If you master that, you can learn. Then understand also, basically, if you want to look at far as Bible go and seeing that the Bible is a spell book, as I said, you can go to Ann Rivers. It's a book of Psalms. It shows you how to use the book of Psalms for everything from love and vengeance or whatever you want. You can get in the book of Psalms, job, love, or whichever. But the world need to wake up and look at such situations. Stop believing in a Jesus that don't exist. Because if Jesus, when I became a Knights Templar, the first thing you do, you have to denounce Jesus. And when you understand he doesn't exist, go look at the Jaden coming to the alphabet into the 1500s. So if that's the case, if you use Yahshua ben Joseph, you don't know these people. You're only getting the information what the government is giving you and you following it. The Bible tells you if you believe in it, you know, seek you shall find, not you shall ask. Anything you want to do is given to you. But if it doesn't make sense, it ain't true.
Mm.
And the gods want you to search them, but look up the Anunnaki. If you look them up, then you understand how the world really is and what's being created. And just most of all, black, white, or whoever y'all, love yourself. If you can love yourself, don't hate on the brother that's next to you. Don't be jealous of him. Uplift everybody and live positive as you can. Because at the end of the day, you are going to go somewhere. There's no heaven. There's no hell. You have purgatory, the negative energy. That's what hell is. And you have positive, which is where you go if you complete your task. But don't hurt your kids and don't have then hurt your kids having babies that you cannot afford and produce for these systems a system that is lying to you. Look at the world. See the truth for what it really is. If they really want to stop black cops killing black men, they could do it, but they don't. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
why
It's
don't
because
they?
if you because it's all about I'm gonna break this down to you like this and I'm gonna keep it very short. Black people on and white, everybody got to be sacrificed. But black people and the cops killing them is because black people do some things sometimes. We'll use for example. We ain't no say George Floyd. But if you ride around with 20-inch rims on your car or 30-inch rims and you ain't got no job, you setting yourself up to say you're going to get hurt or arrested because it looks like you're a dope dealer. And then when you get in jail, you be mad at everybody for the lifestyle that you lead. Man, who snitched on me? No, you told on your own self. Nobody had to snitch on you. You told on your own self for what you write. Be, you know, break it down. Well, of course, if you have a system where you let the white man make the votes and you believe in Jesus and Jesus didn't help you and the white man took over, then of course, if you have a panel sitting there or white people or other ethnics, you got to make decisions. Of course, they're not going to turn around and include themselves in the deal. They're going to use a lesser person responsible, which is black and Latino people. That's what they do. You don't. It doesn't have to be that way. But when you look at Martin Luther King's life, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, it makes you. His message was be submissive under all circumstances. Malcolm X's mission was your any means necessary. So if you're submissive, look at black people. When something happens and somebody died, when they get on TV, what's the first thing they say? We don't want no trouble. We don't want no violence. We want every yeah. That's bullshit. Because see, sometimes you got to set that situation off to get people attention. And so when you be submissive, the white man ain't never gonna pay you no attention because you follow what Martin Luther King said. Michael King is being submissive, and they never gonna pay you. They give you a civil rights suit, but they're not gonna stop putting black people in jail. So if you're gonna play the game, understand the game and understand the rules. Get you a job because it's negative to come in with the drug game and it's not a W-2 form. It's a drug game. It's just meant to make supplemental income. You need a job to produce elsewhere. When you living at home and smoking weed and doing what you're doing, you're inviting yourself to the penitentiary and you're inviting yourself to death because You sitting there trying to hate the white man and all these others. You got to play the game for what it is. It's a game, and you're a participant in whichever path you chose. Now you can look at anybody's path in life and you can see where to end up, whether jail, success, or whichever one. But there's a price to pay for all. If you love yourself, black, white, or whichever one, and who are all listening, then you'll understand that sometimes, you have to look at yourself and understand you. Read the book of Art of War about Sun Tzu. You don't understand yourself, you'll never win. If you don't understand your opponent, you still lose. The best war, best thing to ever be had when nobody gets hurt. And when you understand who you are in this world and the way it works. And if you don't want to be a statistic, stop playing the game and blaming other people. When you step in the game, you see the end results because you've been there from the beginning of time. If you're a drug dealer, you know how it's going to end. If you're white collar, if you're trying to steal from people, whichever, it's going to end some type of way. Learn that, nobody owes you anything. You owe yourself. You owe yourself love, compassion, and empathy because in the end, you didn't actually be born and nobody did. Life is a game and you just need to learn how to play it and stay out of the white people courthouses and buildings and doing all this other stuff because it builds off your negativity and the things that you do. Understand universal law. You putting this out here regardless of whether it's drugs, money, or whichever one. There's a price to pay for everything. Just make sure when you're playing that game, you have money put back to help yourself get out of trouble and you help yourself with family. Nobody's saying not to do what you do, but you can take two jobs, one job at Bojangles or McDonald's if you got felonies and make two of them and make that amount of money. But you have to remember, you are the choices of your parents and the decisions they made. Just don't carry that to your own church. Learn something, read something. The Anunnaki, Dr. Stitches, all these people on YouTube, you can go look them up from the fifth kind of knowledge. Love yourself. And if you can love yourself, you can learn that not to hurt yourself. And even if you do got to play the game, understand when to quit and when you need to fold.
Mm.
The drug dealer is not a W-2 form for a life. Is supposed to be supplemented with a job because you're taking from people and you're doing that with the universe and you're breaking universal law. Somewhere, karma gonna come back and get you because you broke some laws. You can't escape. Love yourself. Love all. And just remember, regardless of whether it's white men hate you, your own people hate you. In the end, if you love yourself and you got to get down, I'm not telling nobody not to get down, but whatever it takes you to survive, understand your limits and understand you need a job and know when to walk away and when to stay, when to hold, when to fold. If you
Uh,
don't, you're destroying yourself, your kids, and everybody else.
all
I'm
right.
finished.
All
I just want them to know that because
right.
it's important for I love my people. You got what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And we are hustling.
Sir.
And the thing about it is, we're looking for answers, and we're looking for these answers. But until we can look at ourselves and see the things that's going on, and look at the world, it doesn't matter what the white man or whichever one. You have the Anunnaki in the Bible, and if you do what you're supposed to do, you can make it whether you hustle or not. But it doesn't mean that you have to go. drop guns. I know from Chicago, Compton, where government officials drop guns in the middle at 3 or 4 in the morning, and people shoot and kill themselves, but they won't go downtown and kill the judge. They gave them time.
Yeah.
That's a messed up mentality. You
Yeah.
see what I mean?
Yeah. Yes,
It's
sir.
a,
I,
it's
I,
a.
I definitely do. Um,
I,
so we gonna try to see if uh if we can basically make sense of what's been going on up until this point. Mr. Mosley, he dropped a lot of good points on us tonight. It's a lot to digest. I know that if you were taking notes, then you may be able to go and research some of the things that he talked about. uh, I'm definitely going to have him back on because he's definitely a good place of a builder. He can help you build on thoughts that you may have to kind of help you um, with some things that you may or may not understand, whether you agree or disagree with them. As always, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been another episode of Word on the Street. As always, I'm Mr. Burn One, and guys, don't lighten up, tighten up.